Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this Domination Mode showdown between Kislev and Nurgle here on Death's Pass, and it certainly is going to be a duel of the big boys. So we have Boris, Ursus facing off against the Exalted Great Unclean One. Some very thick lads indeed. And now as far as what Boris brings to the table, he's basically an anti-large beatstick that is super durable, and that's very nice for Kislev for sure. Someone that can get in there, get down and dirty. Coastal Team can of course tank and fight. He has passive healing when he gets injured, but he can't really just give it back super hard, whereas Boris certainly can. So here he's on his awesome mount. And let's take a look at his abilities. So he does have the Armor of Ursus here. This gives him damage and melee attack when he gets below 50%. You're going to notice a recurring motif with a lot of Kislev units. As they get more and more beat up, the harder they fight, which is really cool. Heroic Resilience as well. So again, when he's beat up, he does get the extra melee defense and leadership. Of course, he has the Kislev passive, which makes him unbreakable for 30 seconds when he's about to break. As far as unique abilities go, he does have the Shard Blade. This is a bombardment that does a little bit of damage, not too crazy, but the good thing about it is it does apply a slow to nearby units. On top of that, he does have the Fury of Ursus, which rampages him, makes him cause terror, and also does add some pretty nice stats as well. So very cool lord. I don't think he's super good against Nurgle. This was more of like a showcase match just to throw him in there against, a big, great, unclean one. But even still, he does have anti-large, so that's good against the Toads, good against Spawn, good against great, unclean one. And, he can't really be shot. Nurgle, if they want to fight him, is going to have to get down and dirty. Now in the front, we got Armored Cossars. These guys seem pretty good here. They have their pistols. They can tank the Nurgle units relatively effectively. I think they would probably lose outright to Nurgle Forsaken just because of the poison and damage output, but they can hold, and that's really what they're there to do. In the backfield, we have a single Streltsy, and the Streltsy are there to shoot just in case there is some big Nurgle armor, for example. Let's say they come in with the Soul Grinder, something like that. You want to have a little bit of armor piercing just in case. And we do have two Cossars in the back, as well as an Ice Witch with the slowing ability, Heart of Winter, and the Winds spell. Now, for my opponent's army here, it's going to be the Exalted Great Unclean One with the Mortis Engine, backed up by triple Forsaken, which I like. I think Forsaken are really, really good and dynamic in this matchup. Their armor makes them pretty durable against the Kislev Cavalry, and yeah, just very, very tough to remove, especially for Nurgle, because they have the poison. It's got some Toads on the flanks, some flies up in the sky, and that is pretty much it. So let's see how this battle unfolds. For the caster spells, I believe he has the healing spell, the melee attack debuff, as well as the corrosive kind of wind spell, which is quite good. So a little bit of fast forwarding here as the objectives do open up. So I was also testing a little bit of a principle here of not capturing the objectives early rather than sending units to go hold the objective. I was like, let's put my units here in the middle and fight the army a little bit harder rather than, going for the objective to see if I can really get a decisive win. Now here we do use the Ice Sheet. Kind of cool. It does slow them down. I actually thought they were Plague Bearers for most of the game. So I was like, oh man, they're really fast today. I don't know what's going on. But here in the back, we do get the Rotflies moving in. Rotflies going to be lanced down by the Winged Lancers. Here they come. A sound of the Sabaton. And those flies are going to be taking quite a beating there for sure, especially once Boris gets in there. And we do also use the Kiss of Winter right there on the Forsaken. So now the Cossars are fighting. On the flanks, we're getting hammered pretty good. Cossars with spears being taken down by Furies. Unlike Cathay, Kislev does actually have good tools for protecting their missiles. The Winged Lancers have an excellent charge bonus and killing capabilities, whereas the Jade Lancers for Cathay really don't. So here they come, charging into the foul beasts of Nurgle. We do get a good charge right there, and certainly hammer those guys into the Shadow Realm pretty well. And some of the Cossars will live, and you can see the Kislev passive is now active on my two Cossar units, so they're going to fight much longer than they normally would have, right? In the front, some of the Forsaken are broken. These ones here are doing pretty well against my Armored Cossars. And now we have the Duel of Duels. Boris surges past the retreating Lancers and pushes into the Great Unclean One. So certainly going to be a cool fight. I wonder if they have any synced animations or anything. It'd be really cool. But Boris is such a cool character. I think he's one of my favorite characters. I hope when the old world comes back in tabletop, we have a character like him that I can paint up. And I really do like the basic Kislev color scheme with the kind of the ice blue and the darker blue. Should be really fun to paint. But the duel is going on, and Boris is doing pretty good. The Great Unclean One is getting spanked up a little bit. We do also have the backing of the Streltsy, so we're slowly clearing out the Nurgle backline diving, and the initial fighting is starting to stabilize a little bit, and here I would say we've pulled a pretty decent advantage as it pertains to the combat. Boris Ursus here able to take down the Exalted Great Unclean One. The Winged Lancers here really making pretty quick work of the Forsaken of Nurgle. A little bit of a backup, although they are taking damage in sustained combat. Their stats aren't very good there, so I do end up summoning, I believe, another Cav unit, some more Winged Lancers, because you really want that charge bonus. That's where they shine, right? Boris still hunting down the big boy to the best of his abilities. Here comes another charge right to the side of these Forsaken. They'll be getting hammered by these awesome Polish cavalry here as they get the good damage. And the Forsaken, almost broken, but very durable with their armor. Now, more and more Furies are coming in. We do get a nice salvo from the Streltsy right before they get in. And Boris is just, he's looking for, well, I wouldn't say blood per se. I don't think this Exalted Great Unclean One bleeds like we kind of perceive it. Fecundity going down, really, really good. Good to be healing up the Forsaken and also healing the Great Unclean One, more importantly. But he is taking pretty heavy firepower from the Cossars as well as the armored Kossars here in the back. Yeah, so there's 2 different variants. One of them are pistol units, and these are just like kind of the bow variant. And we do need to deal with these Forsaken that are really penetrating quite deep into my line. So now Nurgle is starting to take objectives, and I'm really focusing heavily on the fight. Now, sometimes this can pay off. For example, what happens is, even though I'm winning the fight against Nurgle, right? Like, I'm probably doing more damage value, and you guys can't see it, unfortunately, in replays, but I was during the game. And also, he's going to get ahead of me on points, which is going to give me bonus resources in terms of my supplies, eventually. So now I'm going to be getting that very, very soon. And that was kind of my plan. Let's let him get the early objectives, let him give me a lead, and then outvalue his army. And I can tell you guys, this is a very valid tactic. It does have a little bit of risk to it, because sometimes if they get too far ahead, you're really in a desperate situation where you need to triple cap. So there's a lot of finesse to this strategy, but I do think it can be very, very strong. So here we do have the Heart of Winter going down to the Shard Blade, actually, from Boris, which is going to be slowing these bad boys down. But now the Beast of Nurgle's in here, and the big boy is getting hammered by Boris. Stand your ground active. He's doing so good on his bear fighting in the pits here. Now, armored Kossars moving in, backed up by Kossars with spears as well. The Kislevites forces, the Streltsy and the other Kossars just try to push up, but the Constant Fury is certainly a bit of a pain. So finally I'm like, okay, I need to capture an objective so the game doesn't run super far away from me. And I'm not quite getting the points for losing yet. I think it kicks in around like 800 to 1,000 point leads. It's a little bit hard to say. But Boris is a little bit stuck in combat now, fighting the Beast of Nurgle and the Forsaken. But again, he's very, very tanky. 105 armor, very good melee defense. This is certainly what he enjoys. So Armored Kossars moving up, Streltsy and Basic Kossar shooting into the Nurglite forces. And here are the Chaos Furies in the backfield, still being very, very disruptive and occupying a lot of my kind of brain space, to be honest. And I believe Nurgle has taken this far side objective. I did have some Kossovite Dervishes that I thought about going and maybe capturing it, but a really good reaction from my opponent here. He sends the Plague Toads of Nurgle, which are very tanky, and honestly Plague Toads would probably beat Dervishes. Winged Lancers on the charge would probably defeat Plague Toads, but other than that, it's going to be a tricky pickle. Now, he's ahead by quite a few points. We are now getting value for losing, so we're getting +2 plus the bonus for dealing more damage than our opponent. So we are winning on damage value, but he is winning on the objectives, which is very standard for Nurgle. Nurgle... You can't, that playstyle I'm kind of telling you guys about, you can't really play that way with Nurgle in my experience. Typically, you really do need to play the objective game, and they're very good at it. Nurgle's tough to remove, and if they do capture it quickly, you can see how like sending the Constant Furies in my backfield has been very disruptive. Now, the Great Unclean One has run up into the hills, and I did summon Little Grom. Now, this I wouldn't do in like a competitive tournament game most likely, but I think Little Grom here isn't terrible. So we're just kind of sitting and shooting at the Great Unclean One up in the hills. Have we actually hit him yet? Let's see. So we haven't made contact yet. Let's see if this shot's going to fire. The Kislevites lining up the Little Grom cannon, but the Great Unclean One did hide up in the trees. So now he's out of range. But the Nurgle army is taking a pounding, and the second objective is looking quite juicy for us here. But I really, really love this play here from Nurgle, going for a big flank overload with Nurglings as well as Spawn, trying to overwhelm my relatively undefended back objective because my army isn't super fast. I mean, the Lancers are, but my infantry aren't. So he probably will be able to steal this in the end, but... You know, is that going to give him enough? Because I let him get such a lead in the beginning that, well, I didn't let him. I mean, he got the lead, he earned it. But my tactics that I chose not to really capture and push the objective super hard in trade for value might come back and bite me. We'll have to see. But ultimately, I think it's a really, really strong kind of style of play, especially with faster factions. I think like Slaanesh is going to be super good at that as well, just outvaluing early and then triple capping your opponent once you've crushed their army, and you're also getting the points for losing. So yeah, it's going to be really curious to see how the meta does develop in that way. Nonetheless, Boris is coming on the bear. The middle objective is ours, and we do have a little bit of a battle here as the Toads chase away my Kossovite Dervishes. And we have some other Dervishes in his backfield just kind of trolling and trying to block things up, but here comes the forces of Nurgle, and Boris is looking for blood on the bear. Oh, I love the bear mount. It's so cool. Bears are my favorite animal, so yeah, this is just playing Kislev is just like the coolest thing ever. So Dervishes moving in. Obviously, Spawn are going to give him the business pretty bad, but I'm just trying to keep the Nurgle forces off the objective to buy some time for my troops. So I have my Armored Kossars coming in, some Winged Lancers as well. And in the middle, we're very, very secure. And now we have 2 objectives. So if we can just hold 2 objectives for the rest of the game, we should win right now based on the current score. And we're also getting the losing compensation. So this is like where the tactic really comes to shine. But you need to make sure you're able to hold those 2 objectives with the kind of value lead you have accrued. So Boris fighting here against what appears to be a bunch of Chaos Spawn. He has killed, I think, 1 model at least. And my Winged Lancers, I was trying to get behind the Nurgle army. And the Heart of Winter is going to be going down as well from the Frostmaiden. So this one does constant damage. It doesn't do a ton of damage against like Spawn and things like that, but it should do a good job of clearing out the Nurglings. Really nice usage of the Furies to try and push me off the objective as well. And Little Grom is being attacked by some Furies, but in the middle, the Plague Bearers are being focused down. Some Spawn appear to be pushing middle as well. But this back objective is actually going to the Nurglings, man. Nurglings have such good capture weight. It's so incredibly tough to keep those little buggers off your objectives. And yeah, they're doing a really cool job. So Boris is here, but the Great Chungus is getting a little bit close for comfort here. He is getting actually hit by the Heart of Winter, which does do 100 damage per second, so it actually is hurting the Great Unclean One pretty badly, and the Nurglings did get toasted, but he's capturing the objective. Now, a big mistake on my part was not having the Armored Cossars fully on the objective. Some of them are off, which means the Nurgle forces are all on the objective, so he's going to be capturing this, and this could be potentially a game-losing play if he's able to do this. It's going to be really tough, because then most likely I'll have to wrestle it back from all these chaff units here and get that objective. But if Boris is able to kill the Great Unclean One as well, it's going to be huge. So Rot, Glorious Rot going down on Boris, but Boris is standing firm. And now all of his buffs are active from being injured, of course. That's something that's very, very good about the great Kislev Tsar here. As he continues to fight the Exalted Great Chungus, he's very tough to kill. He's got 69 melee defense, a man after my own heart here, and 62 melee attack. 505 weapon strength as the bear claws into the Great Unclean One. But Nurgle did take the objective, just the ultimate trolling, taking advantage of the fact that I didn't park some infantry over here. So once I took it, I was guarding it with dervishes. If I should have had some infantry, like some Cossars or something. Now, in the middle as well, Nurgle with a great split pushing, man. And just using their last vestiges of strength to just kind of push multiple objectives here. And they might be able to get the middle one as well. I'm trying my best to fight on it. I do have a couple armored Cossars moving up and some dervishes. Back here, Nurgle is going to get wiped up. And Boris does take down the Great Unclean One. So now it's only a matter of time before we get this objective back. We can do a little bit of fast forwarding as we clean up these units. And back in the center here, the Cossars are moving in. Going to be going after the Plague Toads of Nurgle. Here they come. They got their pistols out. Certainly going to be dropping some shots into the Plague Toads. And it does hit pretty hard. 3,000 HP. Let's see if they get those shots. I think I might have given them a melee order at that point, so they kind of stopped shooting there. But nonetheless, they should form ranks and rip some shots there. Yeah, pretty decent, but I got them all on the objective. So that's going to make it tough for Nurgle to capture. They do have the capture weight, but nonetheless, I should be able to get there with some Winged Lancers and some mobility as Little Grom shoots down Talon into some of the bigger threats. I wonder what kind of damage he's done this game, actually. Only 300. He hasn't gotten too much. Yeah, Little Grom cost a lot. I think in many ways, if I just like use that money to just, fortify that objective, it could have been very different. But no, it still put pressure and forced the Great Unclean One to run up into the hills. So there's like some tactical value to that for sure. Now Nurgle captures the center objective, and once again, I am on the back foot here. So the Cossar are shooting into the Toads. Here they come. The Frost Maiden and Boris should be able to make pretty quick work of the Toads, but they're just a roadblock here, and Nurgle is roadblocking me very, very well. Though the fight is going okay. We do have the firepower, the Cossars are very durable, Nurgle doesn't have a lot of armor piercing here. And once again, the Heart of Winter does go down. The Foul Beasts are going to be frozen by the Ice Witch here, and certainly doing some big, big damage. It does have scaling damage. I think it does a little bit of friendly damage. Let's see. I'm trying to see if they're actually taking that damage. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it actually only hurts the Nurgle units. So we do also pull a bunch of dervishes. I feigned a charge over here, so I sent a bunch of dervishes to force a reaction, which did kind of work. He went over here with all the Nurglings and different units, and this is going to allow us to capture the center. But now I do need to get that third objective. If I don't get the third objective, it's pretty much game blouses at this point. But it's certainly very possible. My army is much stronger than his. He has no lord. It's mostly just Nurglings and a couple chaff units. So you can see like my initial strategy of like outvaluing in trades is paying off. But the fact that he was able to snake a couple of these objectives from me really, really put a wrench in my plans and has been beautiful play here from the forces of Nurgle. So now we're going to be pushing for it. Here they come, Kossovite Dervishes, Winged Lancers. This is the last charge for Kislev here. We need to take this objective. On the far side, some Forsaken are trying, but I do have my Streltsy there, and they should be able to do it. So here comes the cavalry charge, thundering in the distance. They're going to be moving behind the Toads, as are the Winged Lancers, trying to get on top of the objective, lancing down some of those Toadlings. And we have more and more Dervishes, but infantry do have the highest capture value in the game, so despite myself having a bunch of Winged Lancers here, I still don't have more capture weight because 2 Nurglings are going to heavily outweigh Dervishes. The way it goes is Lords and Infantry count for the most, basically, and then after that, I believe it's like Cavalry followed up by Monsters. So Monstrous Lords, for example, have less capture weight than like foot-based Lords and Heroes and things like that. But in the end, Nurgle just barely wins despite the surround, and their army was about to be wiped. Really, really good match. Super close. And also a good showcase. Despite the fact that I misplayed the objectives and didn't defend them properly and kind of wasted money on inefficiencies like Little Grom, Boris was still a beast. 4,200 value, super happy with that. And the rest of the army was good, honestly. I felt like the initial trades went well. I didn't play the objective game well and kind of got punished for it. I should have been defending my side objectives with durable, summon in a Tsarguard. Instead of Little Grom, I could get a Tsarguard plus like another infantry. And the Tsarguard could just go sit on that objective and I would never lose it. It would be totally safe. And then we might have been okay. But his kind of dual pushing was beautiful. So really, really well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that showdown. That was a really, really fun one. And yeah, I think Boris is really good. I think he's going to be great against Khorne. They have a lot of big armor and like factions where you're worried about big armor. Let's say you're facing like Empire and Demogryph Knights, Volkmar, like great counter against all those guys. And he looks super badass too. All right, guys, that's it. Take care of yourselves. Kislev will be back for vengeance soon. Don't you worry. they will face Nurgle once again and exact their blood tithe. That is it for now. See you next time. Adios.